So for me, I try to put a little excitement in that and say, you could be my guy. You could be my technician that's going to handle these hybrids. And that's what I want you to focus on.
This is the Healey Brothers Show.
All right. Well, welcome to the Healey Brothers Show. We got my brother Dylan Healey. We got Nicky, our producer. And then we got a new guest today. We got Bill Vittorini, our service director from Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Beacon, New York. Hey, Bill, if you just want to give us a little background on you, how long you've been at Healey and that kind of thing, and then we'll get going here.
Yeah, so I've been in the industry 20 years now, and with Healey just over 10 years.
Wow.
Strictly in the service department.
Okay. Right. And then you started as an advisor, correct?
At Healey, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And then where were you before that?
I worked at an independent garage as a mechanic and then moved to a dealership as a technician.
Oh, wow.
Do you miss being a mechanic?
You know, you've got your tough days as a mechanic. You got your tough days as a customer service rep. Cars don't talk to you, and people do. So
it's very fair.
I've
never heard that.
Well, Bill, you definitely still work on your own cars, though. You have a couple of your little...
Yeah, all the time. And actually coming out of the garage and onto the desk helped bring that joy back.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you as service director because Bill's done a phenomenal job with hiring people. Everyone seems to love him, too. So we've came a long way in that department, so kudos to you doing that.
And Bill, when did you take over as service director at Chrysler?
Just over 2 years now.
2 years? Wow.
Yeah.
Time
really
flies.
been that long?
Yeah.
Talk about the turnaround, though.
Right.
What a job.
No, it's
just
been amazing.
From customer experience to customer satisfaction to having a team that stays put, which is huge. And even though you put them through all that crazy training for Chrysler.
Tons.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to talk about today...
I would just elaborate on that a little more.
Yeah.
The training at Chrysler, it's intense?
You know, the criteria is changing right now. They're actually working and restructuring the whole training facility and program. But initially, there was so many prerequisites to take certain classes, it ended up delaying the training process. So that was one of my first big jobs, was to get everybody trained. And we were out guys for quite some time, making sure everybody went through all the training they could. Right. Went from having one level 3 technician to 5 level 3 technicians in about 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow. And now that training's tailored mostly towards technicians, or service advisors come along with that?
The live training is technicians. The service advisor training, CX coordinator, our warranty administrator, all of that stuff is done online, and it's readily available.
Yeah, and we're gonna touch on this in a little bit. So that's gonna be one of the topics we'll drill into a little bit more. But to start off, we really want to talk about the role of the service department. Why is it so important for the dealership? What do we do differently there? The purpose and importance that you see to support the sales team as well. If you just want to start there, the purpose and importance to you, the service department.
Yeah, I mean, when somebody's purchasing a new vehicle, I don't think it's ever their first thought of thinking to themselves, hey, I'm going to break down and I need somewhere to go. But we need to be there for them when and if that happens. And owning a new vehicle, that might not be, the best experience. And we need to make sure that when they do come in, we're able to give them nothing but the best. Right. Whether that be diagnosing something quickly and efficiently and getting them back on the road fast, offering them a great customer experience, competitive pricing if it just so happens to be a customer paid job, having parts on hand. There's a lot of different things that go into it to give the customer that good experience.
Yeah, and obviously the goal is always to fix it right the first time. Right. That's how you really keep the customer coming back, and to keep the importance of the service and what we call fixed ops in the dealer world, but service for customers is the backbone of the dealership. It's the most important. It keeps people coming back when you fix their vehicle, keeps them happy. Buying a car is the happiest time in the world, but when you have to maintain it or something goes wrong, you have to rely heavily on those people in the back, and it's not an easy job.
Yeah, if you want to try and elaborate a little bit more on what Jay's saying about the backbone and how it supports sales. So if you want to give a way to elaborate exactly what he's saying about why does it support sales?
Well, without good customer service in the service department, they're not going to come back and buy another car from us. So there was a stat I looked up earlier today. I was actually speaking with Dylan about it, and a customer that services with us regularly will be 87 times more likely to buy their second car from us.
Right. It was staggering.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's the old saying in the car industry where sales sells the first car, service sells the rest.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have those also, the prepaid maintenance and all that stuff too, is to keep them coming back. So It's definitely crucial. It's not an easy job too. I can't say that enough. It's you get yelled at more than you get loved, but when you get it right, they stay loyal, which is great.
And don't get me wrong, we've got a lot of great customers. We really do. I mean, I think we do a fantastic job of keeping everybody happy to the best of our abilities, but not everybody's happy. And let's be honest, I mean, everybody's got better things to do with their time than go to a service department, whether it be for repairing their vehicle or servicing it. So the second they walk through the door, we've got that going against us, and we need to do our best job to turn that around and make sure that they leave happy.
Right.
Yeah, in a timely fashion too. It's not like so they're sitting there all day.
Right.
It's important. It's a necessity with life. Is fixing your car and servicing your car, but it's not what customers want to do every single day.
No, it's not. It's not a happy experience, generally speaking. But now, with talking about getting customers in and out in a timely fashion, so I know, because my brother's a technician, obviously my dad's in the service department, right? So diagnostic is a lot different from probably when you were a technician and when my dad was a technician, and even when my brother first became in the industry. Like diagnostics, like trying to diag cars, a lot different than it used to be. So what are the challenges with that with training that you've had to focus on to really diag stuff in a timely fashion, to be able to not just like get the customer in and out, but give them like an answer quickly while they're like waiting in the waiting room?
Well, I think more importantly than that is setting the expectation. I mean, it's not something you can rush in a lot of cases. Diagnostics really can take some time, whether it be having to do, ample teardown on a vehicle or communicating with engineers. So I don't know that the timeliness of diagnostics is as important as letting the customer know where we're at every step of the way.
I don't think that could be better said.
Yep, that was very well said.
Yeah.
And when you say communicating with the engineers, what does that entail?
Well, so on the Chrysler end, we've got a group called STAR. It's a hotline for Chrysler,
Gotcha.
where we can chat with them, give them information, send them scan reports. They'll review the data and tell us, what direction we should probably head in.
And now those engineers work specifically under the Chrysler brand, right? They specialize in Chrysler, Jeep,
right,
Dodge, right?
But I'd imagine, most of our groups and brands are going to have something similar.
Yeah, they all have like a hotline that's. I'm sure they're overworked too because of how many vehicles are sold. So
sure.
Yeah. I know on the Hyundai side they have Techline. They reach out to Techline.
I think Ford's is actually called Hotline or something like that too. So.
Yeah.
But
I'm forgetting what Chevy's is called, but it's the same exact.
Yeah,
they
have to have it because they have these engineers that.
And sometimes they have to send out a field engineer if it's something that they can't figure out over the phone and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking to Bill a little bit about diagnostics and the fact that COVID made us all realize how many semiconductors there were in vehicles, and that there even were semiconductors in vehicles. So we've had these cars go from, like hard mechanical vehicles to now they're just supported by a ton of computers, right? Yeah. So finding the root of the problem isn't always easy when you have all these computers within a vehicle, right?
Right.
I mean, it's insane. Like, just to think about, like, people think like there's a couple chips in cars. There's hundreds to thousands of chips in cars.
Right, exactly. And nobody knew that until COVID hit. Right?
Yeah, COVID's like right. What? There's like, I think there's like 50 in a seat.
Right.
In how a seat works. So it's like crazy stuff like that where all these chips are in there. It's just a giant computer on wheels.
And the complexity of diagnostics that comes from that, you can have a car setting a fault in area A, but area C is the culprit. And it has nothing to do with what's happening over here. They just communicate with each other, and it's creating an issue over there.
Right.
So technicians, like you said earlier, you went from the name mechanic to technician, and there's a reason for that.
Right. The complexity of the job got a hell of a lot harder.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And has that complexity changed just forget about the 10 years that you've been working with Healey. What about the last 2 years of you being a director?
So communication networks on the Chrysler brand have changed. They went from communicating through bus networks now to Cat 6 wire. So we've got all kinds of new diagnostic equipment that was sent to us and breakout boxes, and then a whole slew of new training.
So just to put this simply, these cars are complex. We need to get it right for the consumer. And just so they understand is it might take some time, but we're not trying to fix your car wrong. We're trying to get it right the first time. And we don't want you to have to come back. We want you to enjoy your vehicle because you paid for it. It costs a lot. So that's just a lot of stuff going on.
Just 1 second. Steve, was that Chris Bellantoni at the door? Let him in because he wanted to watch this if it was a possibility.
Yeah, he was watching from the window.
Yeah, you can let him in.
Tell him to go away. All right, so we'll keep going here because you can't really hear them. So
no, it'll be all right.
So the diagnostic, obviously complex as hell, but that's why we do all that training. That's why you guys go through all the process. You go to all these meetings. You get updated from Stellantis, the Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram parent company. It's just everything we do. The customer needs to know we do it for them, and I think they get lost in how they think we should just fix things like this.
There's definitely that misconception where it's easy to believe that it's something quick and easy, plug it in, you know the codes, and you know what's wrong. And obviously that's not the case. We know that on the inside, and it's sometimes we take it for granted because we're so close to the heart. So we expect the customers to understand something like that. And again, they may not. So we need to kind of let them know where we're at every step of the way, let them know that we're on it, we got their back. It may be a little bit more involved than they might have believed it could be, but we're doing everything and making every effort we can to make sure we get it fixed right.
Right.
Yeah. So let's move on to like workflow. A customer pulls up, they come in or they make an appointment, whatever they do. So you just want to talk us through how that works at our facilities. And mostly are decently similar too from Chrysler.
Yeah. And at Chrysler, we recently made some changes. For example, the renovation, adding the service drive that we never had there.
Thank God.
So I mean, we've changed what we were able to offer the customer when they come in. So now it's as simple as pulling into our service drive, getting out of your car, handing your keys to our service drive valet, who's going to then do a walk around, a damage report, check simple things, for example, inspection stickers, oil change stickers, things like the customer might not have caught when he came in for whatever he may be coming in for, and then passing them off to a service advisor who's going to document their concerns and get them written up.
And then when they drive in, what happens? So we have the drive-through. They drive in. They have all that, the tire alignment and all that stuff.
Right. So yeah, we've got pretty cool tech, Hunter alignment checker, where the customer doesn't have to do anything but drive through, and lasers are going to pick up on everything. It's going to give you alignment specs. It's going to give you tread depth. It's going to give you uneven tread wear. It's going to pick up on so many different things, but also that's going to take a bunch of pictures to protect the customer and make sure that they know this is the condition your vehicle was when you came in.
Oh, excellent. And that all is a printout for them to see right away as soon as they walk in, right?
Right away.
So now, obviously, because when Dylan came up with this idea, it was about the complexities of operating a service department. How is that, like, I guess you could say, helped with that being such a complex thing, right? Because to figure out those issues prior to this technology and prior to the service drive and everything like that, you would have had to pull the car in, the technician would have to check it himself, and so on and so forth. So how's that kind of like made that workflow easier, right? It's not as complex anymore.
Absolutely not. And again, keeping the customer's time in mind, it's probably saved them a half hour.
Yeah, I mean, we still have that at one facility that we haven't. It's still a work in progress, but they still check it by like hand like that. It's crazy. Ford Goshen,
right?
Yeah.
Yep. So I mean, that 30 minutes, that's got to be crucial for customer satisfaction.
Well, 36 appointments a day, 30 minutes a car.
Yeah.
Adds up to a lot of time. I can't do that math in my head right now. But.
Yeah, it's too big of numbers. So after that, we're talking to the advisor, we're talking to the consumer, we're setting expectations and time. One big complaint we always hear is, I mean, no matter any service facility, not just Healey, it's always, it says, hey, I thought my appointment was at 10 o'clock. Why isn't my car going in? So if you want to talk about that, how the process works, how the car comes in, depending on what it's for, if you just want to touch on that.
I mean, the way we try to categorize it is by two different things, a drop-off and a waiter. It's the easiest way to explain it. A waiter is set to come in and physically stay in the building while their vehicle is being worked on. And the schedule is got a template built into it for us to accommodate in that way. And a drop-off appointment, we're going to set some time aside for that customer to come in and speak with the advisor, go over the concerns, possibly show us what they've got going on, but leave the vehicle with us for then to later dispatch to a technician, the skilled technician who may need to take that job and handle it throughout the day. So again, we try to make sure that we get from the customer if there's a particular time they need the car back by and try to meet that expectation if we can. And if we can, it just comes down to communicating with the customer.
And being ahead of it, not just waiting to, 10 minutes before, like, hey, by the way, you're not going to get your car back today kind of a thing.
Right.
Is updating them throughout the day. Yeah.
So now with more of the communication, I know some of our stores have. Do you guys use True Video? Is that what it's called?
So we've got Chrysler brand stuff. So our multi-point is Y-Advisor, which has video software in it. It's not something we've really dove into all that much. We had a trainer come in and help with our express guys, showing them the benefits of it. I'm a believer in it. I think it's great. It's just something that hasn't taken at the store yet.
And also, let me just take on Bill as an advisor was probably the most OCD driven process person I've ever seen. This guy always was ahead of the customers, always made sure everything was documented. And I don't think have you ever had a complaint?
Maybe.
I don't recall one ever. If there was, it was solved real quickly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the work process, everything goes that way. We also have a dispatcher, Danielle /
Right.
assistant manager as well.
Right.
So she makes sure your vehicle gets into the right person. We're not just giving an engine job to a lube tech or anything like that. So,
Yeah, the good thing is our team's been this team for years now, so everybody knows what they're capable of. We know what each technician can handle, and as long as we can get the work to the right guy, that's our best shot at getting this thing back to the customer in a timely fashion.
and done right.
Right.
And then the other side of the shop, we also have, if you see it on the road, going with Chrysler, and most of our facilities do have we call it a quick lube express service. If you want to touch on that, if a customer needs an appointment, doesn't need an appointment, and what goes on in there.
So we welcome walk-ins without a doubt, any time of the day, no questions asked. Appointments are always going to guarantee you that spot and potentially faster turnaround, but walk-in appointments are always welcome, and express service is always ready to take them.
Excellent. And then there we just do like the premium oil changes. We do the tire rotations. Is there anything else we do in there?
On the express side, so our express technicians, believe it or not, they're skilled. I mean, they've been with us for some time, so they're able to do brake jobs. They're able to do belts or spark plugs. So if they're in there and they catch something and they let the customer know, they can potentially get that all taken care of the same day.
Excellent. So that's perfect. So that's good for the customer to know.
Yeah, this next segment that we can go into, honestly, I learned a lot of it when you were making your change from advisor to director, because my dad would come home, me and him would talk about it for like an hour.
Yeah.
About all the stuff he would do when you guys would get together and break down the department for me about all the different segments of finances and stuff. Like, I'll be honest, you moving into the director thing, I learned a lot because me and my dad would talk about it when he came home. So this next one about managing technicians and staff is probably more complex of an idea than people would imagine, right? So you were saying like your team's been there for a long time, so you do know their things, but if you want to break down like why that can be way more complex than people might think on the outside of it.
So what I've learned moving into this position is that's my number one job. That's my real job duty right there, is managing people. It's the financial is, you learn it, it's numbers. Processes, coming up with processes and ideas, it's not so hard, but managing people, that's a daily grind. And every person is completely different. Each guy's unique, and the way you need to handle each person is totally different from the next. Some people are driven by money. Some people are driven by time off. Some people really value their lunch break and want to take a full hour. Some guys want to work right through it. So each guy, whether it's a good or a bad thing you're trying to handle with that employee, is handled completely different. And it takes some time to learn each person and how you need to handle that person.
Yeah, that was very well said.
Yeah.
That's great.
So how would you say, I don't want to go, we can go to a little bit of culture. How is the shop culture? How are those guys working together? How do you keep them all pushing towards the same goal? Because I know you send out the reporting to me, Dylan, every single day, and Chris, and we have to keep the guys all moving the same way. At the end of the day, we're a team.
Right.
We all have the same goals. I mean, everyone has a little different goal. How do you keep those guys organized, driven to reach that goal for the team?
Well, not to go against what I just said, but obviously everybody's at work to make money, right? Yep. So we've got to show them that. We got to show them the potential, and we've got to show them what their production or their progress is looking like on a daily basis, because we're paid weekly, right? For the most part, most people are paid weekly, but you can't just say, "Hey, Friday, you did great." You got to tell them, "Hey, on Tuesday, Monday looked like a killer day. You keep that up, you're going to have a hell of a week." Right. So I think. Actually, your dad says it best. You can't win if you don't keep score.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Dwight's got good one-liners. should have him on here too. Great one-line guy.
No, what are the metrics you use to evaluate that? Like, is it more than just looking at what they produced on Monday? Like, are there other metrics you look at?
Shop hours is a big one because everybody's charged by shop hours. Technicians get paid off of shop hours. So when advisors are paid the same, then everybody's got the same goal and they work towards the same thing.
Right. So the goal is to produce as many hours as possible in a given day.
Yeah, which also helps the customer, because the more those guys want to work like horses, the more customers get their vehicles back on time too.
Right.
So getting everybody on the same page and going after hours was a big increase in shop production. Proficiency is another thing that we track, and there's so many different Excel sheets that I run daily. I do numbers every morning for a solid hour and a half. Yeah. But I'm a numbers guy. I don't need to stand in the shop to physically watch what's going on to get the temperature of the shop. When I look at these reports, for me, if something's off just a little bit, I understand what area needs to be addressed, and we go after it sooner than later. And that seems to be the game changer.
And who did those spreadsheets come from?
Oh, John. I mean, your dad came over with a ton of stuff, but
JP's a psycho with this spreadsheet.
I'm a big nerd with all that stuff. Honestly, it helped me significantly. It really, really did.
I mean, he said you were able to absorb it really, really quickly, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I can promise you that he gives you a lot of compliments within my household.
Good. I'm
like
glad to hear that.
when that transition,
because he was
first
actually
started to
teaching a
happen.
person that understood it and really cared. So that was probably good for him.
No, I'm glad to hear that. He helped me out significantly. I mean, honestly, and if I'm going to give any props, I couldn't have done it without him, truly. He came in with a ton of good ideas, a ton of reports, and obviously he's been in the game for a long time, so he saw what works and what doesn't work. So I got to learn from his mistakes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Now, before we move on to the next segment, one thing we have here is what are key qualities? Because this is what we can use for people that are looking to get into the industry. What are key qualities you look into when hiring technicians specifically? What do you look at?
Drive, discipline, and I guess a little bit of passion. I mean, if somebody's passionate about cars in general, then they could make a killer technician because they're going to really enjoy what they're doing.
Okay. Now, how do you figure that out within the hiring process?
I've got to meet them face to face.
Yeah.
I've got to meet them face to face. The phone calls don't do it for me. The texting doesn't do it for me. I've got to sit down with somebody, see how they. I mean, I like presentable at an interview. I don't think.
No, because that shows a lot to their toolbox and everything like that. If they come presentable, they're going to be clean and neat in the shop.
I'm a little old school. I mean, I don't want to see somebody showing up with a hat pulled down over their face, and I want to. If you want a career with Healey Brothers, I think that's the type of people we're looking for.
I like that, Bill. I like that. So just real quick, just reminded me, what are some things we do to recruit technicians, whether it's school or investing in certain areas? Like, what are some things we do to find them?
So obviously we use some of the online apps. We've got a new onboarding person who's going to be helping us out a lot.
Sarah's awesome. So great.
So we're hoping to see a lot of results from that. But we visit some of the schools. We were just recently down at one of the training facilities in New Jersey, Lincoln Tech. Yep. And we did end up recruiting an entry technician from there. At Chrysler, but we did a job fair there and we presented ourselves there, and we try to pull from other places.
Yeah, and one thing awesome about that, all you guys went down there personally, and I think that shocked a lot of those kids. They're like, these guys took the time out of my day instead of like some of those other companies just sent HR.
I was going to say it's funny you say that because when looking around down there, you could see.
Yeah, they're just like administration people, and we understand. I think at Healey is how important technicians are. If we don't have them, we can't operate. Whether it's selling a car, you can't operate. You can't put an inspection sticker on a vehicle. So they're the most, I wouldn't say the most important, but they are a crucial piece of the pie at any dealership. So
back to what we were talking about with diagnostics and how complex it is. I mean, for a new technician who's just getting into the field to be bombarded with that type of work, it could be detouring, So the future looks different, I think, to me, with people getting into this trade. And that's why we need to value our employees that we have now more than ever.
Yep.
Okay.
And grow within.
Funny. Do you guys remember what happened that day at Lincoln Tech? Remember when we were eating after? What happened in the parking lot?
Oh yeah, the crash.
What happened?
Were you still there?
Somebody took off and burned a tire and crashed into another car.
Like literally as soon as they left the hiring fair or whatever.
Did Dwight see that, or he left already too?
He was going.
It was Dwight.
Oh, it's Dwight. All right. So before we get on to industry trends, probably the most important part is our image of our facility. Not image the way it looks, but how customers perceive us. And in sales, it's super important because people need to know that other people like to do business with you. So when we talk about customer service and relations, what do you think? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Trying to do it different than everybody else. It's our presentation, for example. I mean, everybody could put bagels out. Everybody could put water, coffee out. It's the experience you give the customer when they come in. Greeting them quickly with a smile. We're on a stage at all times on the customer service side, right? Doesn't matter how our day's going or what's going on at home. We've got to make sure that we give the customer our best, and that's going to set us apart from the rest.
So obviously, we're not perfect. What's the first thing we do? Say we get a bad review or something like that, or customer's upset. How do we go out? How do we solve it?
We try to attack it right away. I mean, you pull the Band-Aid off, you call the customer, and you try to hear them out. And it's not always about giving them something for free either. That's something I've learned. You don't just have to give away the store to make somebody happy. They may disagree with the pricing, but if you have a good conversation with that customer and you justify what you did and the value of what they purchased, then it could potentially just make sense to them, and you move on.
All right, excellent. And also, I want to put out there, it's not just advisors reaching out to customers. Our GM gets involved. Our service directors are on the phone right away. They're not scared to get involved and solve the issues. And I think a lot of customers always think like, oh, they don't really care. They're not willing to get on the phone with me or talk to me like a high-level management position. So that's one thing that I think you guys do a phenomenal job. And you call the person even on a Saturday if I send you a bad review, which is great. Even though they're probably yelling at you on a Saturday, but it's solved. And what does Dad always say, Dill? What's the one thing? Just grab it and do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
There's no point to it.
That surprises me that somebody wouldn't, as a manager, want to handle something like that.
Think about some places you go to. If you have an issue somewhere, what are the chances someone actually comes over and talks to you?
Right.
0. You guys talk to anyone. That's at any facility too. So it's always great to see. All right, one last thing, Nicky, if you want to take it away on the industry trends. I know you like this part and you study it like a psycho. So.
Well, the industry trends, even though I was telling Chris before, it's hard for us to not bring it up, right? When we were always talking about the complexity changing, right? I think we can all admit the biggest industry change is these plug-in hybrids and electric cars, right? So that's got to be, talk about a headache for new hire technicians, right? So that's a big industry change that I'm sure you guys have to tackle in a different manner than, say, a diesel engine or something. Like, how do you even pitch that to a technician? Like, hey, you're going to have to do this training on something that's, like, beyond complex compared to what you've normally done.
For me, that's a flip-flop because it is harder for me to get the older guys involved into something like that than it would be to get the newer guys involved. So for me, I try to put a little excitement in that and say, you could be my guy. You could be my technician that's going to handle these hybrids. And that's what I want you to focus on. And at that point, they're ensuring job security for themselves because the rest of the shop may or may not have the ability or the want to handle those cars. So they're going to get inundated with those cars. And also, our younger generations they're tech dependent. So when these cars are coming in and they're going to be depending on this technology to fix them, it might come to them a little easier than we expect.
So now how has that strategy worked out about actually pitching it to new hires compared to the older technicians? Like, has that worked for you?
It's not something that comes up as much as you think because it's just part of the industry now. I mean, I think it's a given.
Yeah, I mean everything plugs into a computer, so I think they're all understanding. But we're say 5 years, how much? Like,
well, 5 years from now, we're going to see. My prediction, we're going to see a big difference in service. These electric cars don't require oil changes. There's less fluids in them. Rotations, they'll have to come in for, and tires are going to wear out a little bit faster on these cars. But we need to make sure, this is one of your big pushes, sales service handoffs happen. If we want to keep the service department busy, we need to make
You're
sure.
next big guy.
We need to make sure that all these sales service handoffs happen because we need to keep that first year retention up and then make sure that those customers keep coming. And now it's not, it may not just be 7 years anymore like we used to see. These cars could potentially be coming to us for 12 years because there's so many market changes.
Yep.
So people are hanging on to cars.
Well, what's crazy is that the average vehicle on the road is 12.6 years old right now.
And how many? 4 years ago, what was it?
Not that.
I bet, way less because leases were high.
That's what I would think.
So, yeah, exactly. So people were flipping out of their cars.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so crazy world to look forward to. I mean, Bill, thanks for jumping on. Does anyone have anything else?
I'm good.
All right.
Bill, great job.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that was
awesome.
good stuff.
That was
Good stuff, Bill. We'll do it again.
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, hit that subscribe button, and follow us at Healey Brothers on all social platforms.